He has created an incredibly popular YouTube channel that gave birth to DM Crafting.
He has countless apprentices scattered throughout the web.
He has created a Facebook page for crafters to gather and has collaborated with another popular YouTuber to bring you DM advice and adventures you can plug right into your own game.
He is the quest giver, the craft father himself.
And that means...
It's DM Scotty this week on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters, as well as experienced and new players alike. We hope to bring you the tools needed to not only be a great GM, but to help you develop as a player. I'm your host, Louis Aponte. Our stars of the show are Scott Labby and Bill Robotile. Let's enter the dojo and see what both Bill and Scott have in store for us today. Hey Bill, hey Scott.
What's up?
Guess what?
What?
We have DM Scotty in the dojo today.
The craft father himself.
Yes, we do.
I have to start off with letting you know that my buddy Scott over here got into crafting. I went over his house one time where we were building a campaign to run on, and he's like, I have to build a purple worm. And I went, what? Do you have toilet paper rolls? And I need some barbecue skewers. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got to see this. And we sat down and watched a couple episodes of DM Scotty. And not only has he drank the Kool-Aid by the pitcher, but on his way down the rabbit hole, he grabbed me by the ankle and took me too. So we are very, very excited to have you here. No one more so than Scotty. No more so than Scott over here. He's been giddy and grinning like a kid on Christmas Eve.
He's actually blushing right now.
Yes, he is. He is actually blushing. He is. There's an awe factor going on over here.
I'm pretty jazzed.
I won't bite.
So let's plug Scotty here. You can find Scotty crafting on his YouTube channel, The DM's Craft, and on the web at thedmscraft.com. Have a look at Quest Givers at questgivers.com for adventures you can plug right into your own game and some helpful DM advice, too. And if you're a crafting DM or player, head over to the Tabletop Crafters Guild on Facebook.
That's it.
So we're going to go right into it. When did you start playing tabletop RPGs?
Oh my gosh.
Do you recall?
It was way long ago in ancient times when I was a teenager.
Kindred spirit.
And even then, I really liked figures. I really liked the miniatures, the sets of metal miniatures that they had. I would use those, and I would actually cut out, little tiles for my maps and stuff. So even early then, I was kind of doing a version of what I did later on.
So it wasn't that big of a jump, was it?
No, it wasn't actually.
What drew you towards the hobby in the first place? I mean, how'd you get introduced to it?
It's like, wow, we can do what? We can tell stories, and we can make up things, and we can like fight monsters, and camaraderie, and play out these movies in our heads, that we see on the television and movies. It's like, I'm all in. Let's do this. So I think that's what got me excited about it. My dad has always been like a sci-fi horror buff,
cool.
Movie buff. And, that got me into that kind of genre stuff. And then it just went from there.
Yeah, it shows too, in a lot of the stuff you've done on your DM's Craft. I really, really think the episode with the Timmy plastic figures, the Space Force guys, was awesome. It had that kind of Forbidden Planet kind of vibe to it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that was a great game to run. So much fun.
How did you end up painting those? I've always been under the impression that the paint just doesn't stick well to those kind of molded plastic figures.
Well, with our advanced crafting technology today, we can. They do have these nice spray paints you can get that actually stick to plastic. It'll say it on the can, sticks to plastic. So I just get the primer that sticks to plastic and then paint them that way.
The modular.
But it's always good to wash them off first. Wash them off with soap and water first, because a lot of them have mold release on them, and so that tends to not take the paint so well. So I always do that first.
And that's a convention game that you run, right? When you're
Yeah. It was a convention game I was running. I had the full rocket ship going. I had the planet. I had all the miniatures, the terrain. When I go to conventions, either my wife or my daughter will help me. They'll be kind of like a co-DM, and they'll be my slave, and they'll get like terrain, and I'll usually have a couple of like breaks during the game. It's like, oh, everybody go to the restroom, go get a pop or whatever. And then I'll do like, if it's a major scene change. So like from that game, from the ship to the planet, I had everybody just go take a quick 10-minute break, and then I set everything up. When they came back, it was all set up.
That modular spaceship was really a cool idea.
Oh, thank you.
Really,
thank you.
really
It works
cool.
great. Those modules work great especially for
talks about
games.
that. He talks about that all the time. We got to do something like that. Yeah. This is so awesome.
All the time. I actually starting to hear it in my head all the time now.
Told you, Kool-Aid by the gallons over here.
So have you always been a D&D guy, Scotty? Do you have any other favorite tabletop RPGs that you've played in the past or still play now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we have to give it to D&D. I mean, D&D is why we're here, right? So I still play D&D. I really like 5e. If you're going to play D&D, I think it's about the best you're going to get. But
Agreed.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned. But, I do love other games. I love the Cypher system, the Black Hack, Index Card RPG is a really great quick one.
That's
I'm actually
Hankering's,
working
right?
on I'm sorry, what?
That's Hankering Fresnel?
Yes, yeah, the Drunkens and Dragons, Hankering Fresnel, yes. He is a mad genius. I'm a huge fan of his. His system is great. I've used it a lot. But lately I've actually been using my own system for convention games, and I call it DM Scotty's Easy D6 RPG. So I'm working on it right now, and I have kind of workable rules that I've been working on. I've run it for the Nerdarchy guys. They loved it. I've run it at different conventions. I ran it for all the tabletop crafter guild people. They've liked it. So the idea for the game was that you would never have to look up any rules while you were playing.
That's cool.
Yes.
That sounds amazing.
Because in a convention game, that's what you want, right? You don't want to sit there and hold the game down looking up rules or trying to figure something out. If a player does something unexpected, you just want to go with it. So that was where I approached the game. It's like, because the game is essentially this, right? It's essentially, okay, I'm going to flip this coin, and tails or heads you win, tails you lose. That's about the simplest game you can get to. So how much can you strip off stuff, not making it too basic, making it have enough meat to actually play a game, but not too complicated that it's just you're bogged down in rules and rules and rules and rules, right? For every single thing. So that was my idea with that, and I'll be releasing it at some point. But my own Easy D6 system is pretty cool, and it's worked great. I've run it with people that have never played RPGs before, and it's so simple because essentially you just tell me what you're going to do, and I tell you what to roll. That's it. There's really not there's not much to the character creation itself except what your character, like a basic thing your character can do. Like maybe you're a mutant that can shoot a heat ray out of your eye, and I just use the same mechanics as the rest of the game. It's just you have that ability to do that. So maybe you could melt metal. Maybe you could, do other things that some other characters can't do. So yeah, that's the kind of idea. And since I'm running it myself, I don't need 50 rules to be able to figure out what the eye heat ray does, right? I can just make a call on the fly.
Yeah, your interpretation. Yep.
Right. For
Perfect.
flavor.
Yep.
For flavor in the game of how it would work.
Awesome.
And cool factor.
Scott's
too.
over here drooling in anticipation of the release.
Yeah, you're going to run a Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Or something?
I haven't decided yet, but yeah, I'm still working on the rules, but I may at some point, yeah. I'll probably be through Quest Givers that I'd release it.
Cool. That's brilliant because you can place something like that into any genre, from
Exactly.
like fantasy to sci-fi, and
Yeah, I've got it pretty much worked out for most genres. The hardest one, believe it or not, is the one that we're most used to, and that's fantasy, right? Because spells can be difficult, right? So how do you do that? Do you just give them unlimited ability to work any spell they want, or do you have certain parameters, and how do you do that without building up too many mechanics on something? You know what I'm saying? So
right.
that's the challenge. That's actually the most challenge. Everything else I've got worked out. Like I've played sci-fi games. I've played games with normal people.
As if us gamers are abnormal. I like the way you put that. I'm not denying it.
The characters were like normal people. Like there was a line cook, there was a janitor, there was a motivational speaker. But at some point, they ended up getting like a minor superpower because they were time travelers, and they went forward in time where this utopia was supposed to happen because every child was getting this AI teddy bear. And, of course, it's Terminator teddy bears in the future.
But of course.
That was just crazy, gonzo, cool fun. And that was full miniatures, full terrain. I had the little miniature Terminator teddy bears. I mean, I was just,
that is
whole
cool.
9 yards.
That is cool. Now, you mentioned your wife and your daughter. Do they play with you as well? I mean, they're into the role-playing games, or you just drag them along and make them do things?
My wife loves to play, and she's a huge collector of dice.
I am so envious right now.
And aren't a lot of us. But my daughter plays. She DMs. She started DMing her own groups, and when she visits, we'll make terrain. Like I'll make terrain for her to take. We'll make terrain together that she'll take back home and run for her groups, and
that's cool.
This kind of thing. So yeah, they're both really into it themselves.
Do you have a background in art? I always wondered that when I was watching the DM's Craft videos, and I tell my girlfriend he's an art teacher. He's got to be.
I did take art in high school. I took media in college, so I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in media in college, but. But I've always dabbled in art. I mean, I've always been, I made a lot of terrain for my, Warhammer games and that kind of stuff. So
it was, I think, the cold porcelain video, which was really cool. I haven't made any yet because she won't let me use the microwave for that.
Is that why you asked me if I had a spare one?
Yeah, that's
you sly dog. Do you have a spare? Isn't there a spare microwave in the cellar? Can I borrow that? Oh, okay. Now I know.
I'll have to go back and say I was wrong. He's not an art teacher.
Nope. I'm not an official art teacher. No.
She'll tell me I still can't use the microwave. I think the big appeal with the DM's Craft is that you're very likable, and your crafts don't require a lot of fancy equipment and expensive, supplies. That makes it like really accessible to a lot of people. Can you tell us a little bit about your principles of terrain building?
Oh yeah. When I first started, that was exactly what I thought, and I wanted terrain that was quick and easy to make, and that was playable, right? Because there's so much terrain that looks good, but it's not necessarily playable, right? Like, dungeons with thin corridors where, the walls, it's really hard to get your miniatures in there. Try putting an ogre miniature in there. Good luck. Because an ogre could squeeze through a hall, right? Where, physically the miniature may not fit in that thin of a hallway. So you got to kind of set it on top of the hall, and it's not that appealing. So that's where I got the idea of like the 2.5D walls, which are essentially just short walls that show their walls on the tiles, but they don't block sight, because who in an RPG game wants to get up and look over the terrain? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what you do at a war game. You stand up for a war game. You don't. Yeah. You rarely sit down.
What's my line of sight?
Yeah, exactly. You got to get line of sight, but you don't want to do that in an RPG. You're sitting there for hours. You want to enjoy your Cheetos and your pop. You don't want to have to keep getting up and looking over the terrain to see where things are. So that was really what I was going for. And so I finally kind of expanded it into my principles, and my principles are basically this. Well, one is the easy to make, because, you know, I don't want to spend a week making a doorway for a dungeon that has 10 rooms, you know, or whatever. I have to make other stuff, right? I want to make it, you know, I don't want to make it bam, 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 get it knocked out. So that's one of them. Another one is reusability. If you make the less specific, it seems weird, but the less specific you make things, the more you can use them, right? If you make
Makes
the door
sense.
of Drin Zizzle or whatever, that's what it is. It's the door of Drin Zizzle, and you may not be able to use it for anything else. Or you make the side of a mountain. You know, it may look great, you know, but you may not be able to use it for anything else. So I try to, like, okay, how about we make the door, you know, well, and we can a door frame or whatever, and we can put a door in it. You know, make another. You can actually change doors to go in the frame of the door, and you know, like, I don't use walls for my terrain for the most part, so that's really open to description. You know, you can just describe what the players are seeing. The kind of mats and stuff that you would use, that I use for in game, like tiles and stuff. I actually don't have walls on those anymore, because then I can put them in any configuration, right? I can put two together and get a bigger room. I can put a small one on the end, and I don't have to worry about where the walls would land. But what you can do is you can put doors and that kind of stuff down, so it gives you that sense that there's that 3D dimensionality to the thing, but you're not blocking. It's not blocking line of sight. So playability is huge. Storage is another one, right? If you make a huge castle, you know, that looks great, but where are you going to put that thing? You know, you can't put it under your bed. You can't put it on a shelf. You either got to give it to somebody else or trash it for something. And you may have spent a month making it, you know. So I would rather make walls. You know, I make these blocks that I can stack, you know, on top of each other, instead of making a huge castle wall or whatever. Make these blocks, and then I can take it apart and make anything I want. Mm-hmm. I can make a platform. I can make a tower out of it. I can make, you know, anything I want. So that's really good about kind of the reusability of stuff. So those are my four philosophies. So reusability, storage, playability, and easy and cheap to make.
Nice. That I watched the episode a while back where you finally found your perfect tree.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, and you know, it's like, and you're right. You know, sparse foliage. You know, it looks like a tree. You put a bunch of them down, it looks like a forest. But you can still see the figs. You can still move around. You don't, like you say, you don't have to get up and peer around stuff. So, yeah, I could see.
Right. Yeah. If you got a forest full of huge foliage,
yep,
you can't see what's under the foliage. You know? Or you reach down, you knock the tree over. You know.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I like that as well. So.
How'd you happen upon the toilet paper and paper towel paper mache method, which I've used a bunch of times?
A lot.
I mean, it's amazing what you can make with this stuff. I've made crafts that I still haven't even shown yet. You know, with it, you know, I've done crazy stuff. I made this tentacle monster for a game that I haven't even done a video on, but it's like, basically, I took aluminum foil, rolled it up, you know, scrunched it up into like a tentacle shape, and then wrapped it with the paper towels and toilet paper, and then, you know, you get the hard shell that keeps the tentacle in the shape, but you have the underskeleton of the aluminum foil underneath. So there's just so much you can do with it. A lot of time, and I also like to do things where I make a shell with it where I put lights inside of stuff. It's great. You can do that. Yeah. I've taken brain molds and made, you know, elder brains, and I did for that game you're talking about with the retro sci-fi. I did the boss was like a brain in a jar, like a large brain in a jar. I had that all lit up, you know, and the brain was out of toilet paper, and you know, I literally just took toilet paper, shoved it in a mold, and soaked it in glue and let it dry, and that was it. I mean, it just pops out. It's rock hard.
Step one,
gets you
stuff
so
the
much
mold.
with it.
Step two,
So much
take it
with
out
it.
of the mold.
Now the problem is waiting for it to dry. Some people, and depending where you live, it's like it can be a real pain because if they have a lot of moisture or humidity, that can be a problem. But a couple things you can do is if it's in the winter, you can put it in front of a heater. Next day it'll be dry like a wall vent. Next day it'll be dry. I put it in my car on summer days and like it'll heat it, it'll warm it up and dry it out. So those are a couple things you can do, or even a fan, even just a fan will quicken it. But yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with it. Some people want it to, they're waiting for it to dry too quick, and you gotta let it dry, of course. But once it dries, that stuff is generally like rock hard, and it's and when I make those kind of tendrils out of like a wrapped toilet paper up or paper towels, they have a bit of flex to them. So unless you like kind of literally rip it off, you're not going to snap it off. If you hit it, some things that are too hard are actually things that can break easily, right? Because you hit it on a hard surface, it snaps off. But this stuff, you drop it, nothing's going to happen to it. It'll bounce.
Now, have you tried the method of borrowing a microwave from one of your close friends? Just checking.
I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, the parallels.
So, how did the Tabletop Crafters Guild start?
Yeah, it seems weird now, it's like there's been an explosion of crafting. I mean, if you're into this, you can't turn YouTube on now and then not find a crafter. I mean, it's like if you look up D&D crafting, you're going to get a page, pages full of crafters, which is great. But when we started the guild, it was like the idea was to like, okay, let's push. We were kind of we all knew each other, and we were like, okay, let's push this whole crafting thing. This is really cool. This is a cool community. It's kind of this niche thing, much less now because there's so many people getting into it. But it was really this kind of niche thing that we started, and it was just to get more, people into it, because if we're all sending people to the guild, the 4 or 5 or 6 of us now, we're all sending people to the guild, then it's like, we're getting more coverage from different people that they may see my videos, or they may see Jeremy's or Bill's, or any, Gareth's or anybody like that. So that was kind of a cool way to get people into this thing. And now that it's kind of started, I don't think we need that so much anymore. It's more just a place to post. But at the beginning, the emphasis was really to get exposure for people that, hey, I might want to do this. And now we have all these great crafters doing awesome content.
It is cool. I mean, when we go away for a week and have a long gaming session, it's like a D&D vacation. And a couple of years ago, we showed up with, I think, 11 totes full of terrain.
We were busy.
And
Yeah.
and the players, they were jazzed. They thought it was the coolest thing.
It was the coolest thing.
Yeah,
we had conifer forest and deciduous forest and different. We had landscape for a sandy, dry, arid area and a wet area, and we just kept changing it out. And we were running 2 tables at the time. Our week long usually has more than one table, and we run parallel storylines along, and they eventually marry back up, but they're in 2 different parts of the world, so we have whole different sets of terrain for everything. And we started breaking this stuff out, and they were like, all right, what's next? All right, no, go in the other room. I need to do some setup, but I want to watch. No, go away.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll tell my group to, like, my home group to go, get snacks. We'll have a snack table out, so it's like, oh, you guys go get snacks. I'm going to set up or whatever, if it's a big scene change.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, as a matter of fact, a couple times during our getaway, we would come down after breakfast, and both Scott and Bill would have their tables all revamped, and we're like, it's really getting exciting now, because, the terrain just brings the world to life, with that alone.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a great point. Because, theater of mind is great, but seeing that miniature world in front of you, some people think, oh, it can distract from it. I think it adds to it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Because, like, at the basic level, it's the campfire where you tell the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because humans used to huddle around the campfire and tell stories, at this mystical thing that was in the center. That would be the focus. The fire would be the focus, and you would tell stories about the ancestors or, whatever, the heroes and ancestors. And, the tabletop kind of replaces that. It becomes the miniature world that you're focusing on, like the fire, that you can all focus on. Everybody knows you can look at it and just instantly know what's going on. When you're playing a total theater of the mind game, it's like, where was I again? What? Okay, who's where? And when if it's a difficult set, if it's a weird setup or weird area, sometimes it's easy to get lost where you're at. Okay, am I over here, or am I by that pillar, or am I but with a tabletop, it's just instant. You look at it, so you cut all that out of the game. You cut all that of like, okay, let's figure out, logistically where everybody is. And a game like D&D that's very tactical, that's important.
Yeah. You definitely have characters that are always looking for cover. Now they actually can see the cover.
Advantages. Yeah, and
3D is definitely a whole lot better than drawing it out at 2D on a battle mat.
Yeah, it unifies the vision.
Yes.
Everybody sees the same thing. When it's theater of the mind,
there's a lot of misinterpretation.
Yeah.
No matter how good the description is.
Totally.
I've always equated you. You are like to crafting what Ozzy Osbourne is to heavy metal.
Which is great because I love Ozzy. I love Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, me too. He is great. So how does it feel having kind of achieved that celebrity status amongst the RPG community, particularly crafters? I haven't watched a crafting video that hasn't kind of paid homage to you. Black Magic Craft, Wylock, you name it.
Right. I've actually kind of just, stepped back a little bit, from it. Not because I'm not interested in it, but it's just letting these other people put their feet forward. You know what I'm saying? I'm more of this kind of status where I can just enjoy, the fruits of my labor as much as everybody else's. It's just great to see everybody else, this whole thing flourishing and like multiplying. So I'm enjoying it. Like, wow, I started this thing. And, I was thinking the other day, like, because it wasn't long before 3D printing got started, right? Mm-hmm. So, say I never did this. Say I never did my first crafting video. Say I never sheepishly set down my camera and mumbled into the camera trying to explain what I was doing. And I never did that. Say I never did a video. And then 3D printing comes along. I don't know if the 3D crafting ever would have got started. 3D printing might have been it. It may have been the thing that people do, not making your own dungeons out of cardboard and,
for those that would be able to afford it.
Yeah.
Because a 3D printer costs a whole lot more than a bundle of Bounty.
Oh, it does. It does. Yes. Yeah. The crafting is definitely cheaper, but this thing may have never started. I was thinking, wow, this thing may have never started if I didn't just do that, sit down and say, oh, this is a pretty good idea. I should do a video on this, and it's like, and YouTube is, totally different today than when I started. It was just like, it felt just more like kind of the Wild West where people just like, it was kind of like, I have an idea, I'll throw it up on there. Okay, whatever, Now it's like, all these, it's totally slickly produced, all these people with professional cameras and professional software and effects and all this stuff.
And those are just the 14-year-olds.
Right. Yeah, the 12-year-olds are making me look bad. So it was just kind of, it was very crude, when I started, but I've never taken those videos down. I've never been like, oh, I'm embarrassed of those videos or whatever, because it's like where I started. It's like where this thing started, and it feels wrong. I'm a bit embarrassed by those videos, but it feels wrong to take that stuff down because it's like, wow, this is like the genesis of this.
Yeah, well, you get to see the progression as well,
but the growth, yeah.
So I can't take them down. I can't.
And I hope you don't, because there's still going to be people out there that, all right, where did it begin? How do I start?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to number one.
Exactly.
And who better to go to number one than DM Scotty. So, let's check out the first video and work from there. And now it's, I was flipping through and I was like, episode 187. My God, he's been doing a lot of these. and I know there's more past that. It's just the number just stood out at me. Like 187. Wow, we have 30 episodes of our podcast, and he's in the hundreds. Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm pushing like 800 or something, close to 800. So,
well, it's been 8 years that you've been doing it. Is that right?
Well, I started in February 2012. Yeah, so 8 years. Yeah.
That's impressive.
We'll have to send him an
That's
anniversary
dedication.
card.
Yeah, that is dedication.
That is cool. Quest Givers is a really cool concept.
Thank you.
And I see other content creators that have contributed, such as Nerdarchy, Black Magic Craft. Tell us about that. I mean, how did this come to be, and where do you see it going?
Well, Gareth and I from DMG Info, which he's doing a revamp of his channel, and he's doing I don't want to give it away, but he's doing a very interesting take on doing terrain for your games, because it's been it's all kind of generated from when I started, where the kind of top-down view of your tiles and all that stuff. He's doing a different take on it, which really syncs up nicely with online games. It can be used for online games, which is really hard with top-down terrain. But anyways, so with Quest Givers, I was like wanting to do modules, but I didn't want to do traditional modules. I wanted to do them a certain way, and Gareth and I are very similar mindsets on like our DMing styles and that kind of thing. So we were talking about it. It's like, let's start writing modules this particular way. And then we wanted to write not modules that were system neutral, so that anybody could use them in their games. It doesn't have to be D&D. I think if you get a D&D module, you feel it's got to be for D&D, and it's here's specific D&D monsters, and this, D&D this and D&D that. We wanted it to be that anybody could take the module and use it for their system. Use it for Cypher, Black Hack, whatever, you can use it. We also wanted to start collaborations with other people. That's where the Jeremy came in, and the Nerdarchy. They actually turned one of our modules into a D&D module, which is kind of funny what I was just saying. But anyways, if you want to get the D&D version of Death and Taxes, you can get that to kind of get you started, with if you want to have an idea what the stats would be for the things in the game. But we're also doing some collaboration. We're doing one with Wylock right now, and we're doing one with Professor Dungeon Master, which is really fun. It's actually a take on Macbeth. So
that sounds like something he would do. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fun. So we're gonna have more collaborations with people. That's one thing we wanted to do. But when we built the modules, we had a couple things in mind. One was that we wanted to kind of make them modular. So however the story flowed for you, it'd be easy for you to go here, jump here, jump here, jump here, jump here. We also don't have like with the module, we don't lay it out for you at the beginning. Like, here's the synapse of the the module. This happened, because basically that's just wasted paper. Because once you read that and you read the rest of the module, that's useless. You can't go back there and get enough information to run the module. It just gives you an idea what the module is. So why not just read the module? And not waste the paper. But anyways, we also wanted to do this is what I think is the most interesting. We also wanted to do dialogue for the NPCs, for the major NPCs in the game, which I think is great, because sometimes it's hard to role play a character. Say you say, okay, this guy's neutral evil, all right? And, maybe in a module, the boss might have a few lines that he says to the party. Ha, you caught me. Now you die. Bye-bye. That's usually it. But, if you get an alignment in that, you really don't know the psyche of the character. But if you have dialogue from a character, you can really get into the head of like a character, right?
Right.
Even if you don't say the dialogue word for word, you can. It helps you understand the character. So I love the dialogue, and Gareth is great at writing dialogue. So he's really good at that, and the dialogue really pops out. And it helps game masters who are kind of sheepish about that, or they're not as good at their role playing skills. Mm-hmm. They can just read those answers, to the party, and then you'll sound great, you sound polished, but you didn't have to make it up on the fly. So
That's cool.
It's got to be
Yeah.
It's got to be a lot easier for a new DM, working with a module like that than one of those 200 or 300 page modules that Wizards of the Coast puts out. That's a whole year's worth of campaigns to a fledgling DM. That's got to be intimidating. But
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
But your method seems like it's a lot less intimidating. So I can pick up this module being brand new or having like the DM role kind of thrust upon me, and I can run it and sound good doing it, and it's got to be a huge confidence booster too.
Oh, we hope so. We hope so. And we finished the whole. We've actually finished the whole campaign. It's called the North Road campaign. The PDF is for sale on the website, but we are getting the book published, so that will be available too. But we did it. We did a really cool kind of art direction with it. We've done a lot of the black and white line drawing. We really took the design elements from basically an old D&D book, an old 80s book, or it was maybe a 90s book. That's how the book is laid out. But we also did things like, have coffee stains on it and pencil shavings and, that stuff in the book. And we have like Post-it notes in the book. Gareth and I give you, say, like tips, like DM tips throughout the book. Or, hey, you may want to check this out or look at this or keep this in mind. Or, like you might write to yourself as a GM running the game. So we actually put those in the book. They're actually in the artwork of the book. So it's cool. A really neat look to the book. And, the book looks frayed on the edges, like it's been in your bookshelf for years. We really wanted that old kind of game book look. And so that's what we were going for.
The worn and loved book.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. A worn and loved book.
Idea. So tell us, what's your GMing style?
Yeah. And it's one of those things that just you evolve over time. I feel you just it's a craft that you keep working on, right? And you have to realize when you GM or DM that not every game is going to be like whoa off the charts. You hope they are, but don't like kick yourself if they're not. Some games are going to be good, and some games are going to be like wow that was mind blowing amazing. And if a game's not mind blowing amazing but still fun, don't kick yourself for that. It's just we're human beings. It's just how it's going to be. But my philosophy is this is a social event. When you're having people over or you're even online, you're the host of the party, right? So make it fun. Be like a host. Don't be dour or okay, we're gonna go this door and you go to this room and you see some spider webs. All right, it's like make it creepy, make it fun, make it cool. Be excited, with your explanations and interested. So treat it like a social event, like you are the leader of a social event or you're the conductor of the band. They key off of you. The energy you give out in the game is you're gonna get it back. So I think that's my first one. And my next one is the players. Like, I'm a huge fan of the characters. I love the characters. And I hate killing characters, but you have to have that danger in the game, or it's not a game. It's not interesting.
It has to be a level of mortality.
Right, but I'm not a killer DM by any stretch of the imagination. Some of my players might think that, but I am not just there to kill your characters. If it happens, it happens. But I'm going to give you every chance, not to have your character die. And you want to tell a story, of course. But the thing that's different from RPGs to any other media is the story's already set in stone. You go from the start to the end. And with an RPG, the characters have so much involvement in that, that they literally change the story or take it in new directions. So I think you really need to be open to what the people what players are throwing at you, are giving you, right? A lot of times players give you stuff they don't even realize what they're giving you. Use that stuff. Use it in your game. Take the game in that direction. I've heard some players say, "Oh, don't tell this DM that because he'll end up using it against us." But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, take the stuff that the players are throwing down, be receptive and open to that and modify your story to that, because maybe they come up with something cooler than you had initially thought. And it's like, oh, because they'll never know. They'll never know that wasn't the plan, right? So just if they throw something down cool, it's like, oh, that's great. And then go with that, use that. And then they feel like, oh, I'm a genius because I figured that out. It's like, no, not really. I just used it, but yeah, you're a genius. So be flexible. Another thing that can be a huge problem that I see GMs and DMs make is pacing. Pacing is hugely important. It's like a movie. When you're bored when you're at a movie and you're kind of bored or you're looking around, and it's because the pacing is off. And you don't want that at your table. You don't want the pacing to be off. Now, pacing from an RPG to a movie is going to be different, of course, because we have turns and all the other thing. But don't let stuff go on too long. Don't let it, have something happen. Force the action or show them, like maybe they see something, maybe they notice something. If they can't make a decision, help them make the decision. Get the game going. Don't let the game flounder around. That's a huge problem. And my favorite part of RPGs is the choices that the players make. I'm not talking about whether you use like Witch Bolt spell or Fireball spell or whatever. I'm talking, those are the game choices. I'm talking about like moral choices that players make. Like give them, what I like to do is give the players enough rope to hang themselves. It's like,
I say that all the time.
It's a figure of speech, but it's like, yeah, it's a truth. It's so much more poignant if they make a choice and it goes right or wrong. That is so powerful in the game. Like that really needs where the game needs to be. Now, if they go into a room, say, and a trap goes off, surprise, okay, take damage, blah, blah, blah. But if they said, if they meet somebody and the person says, oh, you could take this long way, but, it's pretty safe, but it's going to take you this much time. It's going to take you days. Or you could take this shortcut, which is really dangerous, but I'm warning you, there's lots of danger in there, if they choose to go that way, they're asking for it. It's they've chosen the danger. So I like to, even as basic as that, like choosing which way to go. I like to give choices or clues to bad things that could happen, like foreshadowing. I love to give foreshadowing so that the player's choices are very meaningful and they made the choice. And like the moral choices are really powerful when you have characters making like, okay, you have this bad thing could happen or this bad thing can happen. Which one do you choose?
Lesser of evils.
Yeah. Or, for like murder hobos, I don't really have that problem with my game, with murder hobos, but if you have murder hobos, make them feel guilty for killing these people. They're begging for their life, or my wife and children are going to starve if you kill me or whatever. Don't kill me. Like beg for their life. You won't believe the look on the player's face when you do this. They'll be like, shit, I'm horrible. I'm a horrible person. I'm going to murder this person. So it's like, try that out. And if they choose to make that choice, well, you can still make them feel guilty about it. You can still make them feel guilty about it. But that's the thing that I love about RPGs that you don't get from anything else. You don't get that from watching movies. You don't get that from – it's the character. The characters made these choices. You may like the characters in a movie, but the characters made those choices, not you. You know what I'm saying? So when you make the characters make the choices and that there's the consequences to the choices, good or bad – or sometimes, like I say, it's a bad or a worse. It's much more interesting. It makes it much more interesting. So those are kind of my long-winded DM philosophy. But really, as far as DMing, it's like a stew. It's like so many things go into it that it's hard to choose just a few. But also with the pacing too, it's like some game masters can be too long-winded. It's like, get in, get out, let the players do their thing. You know what I'm saying? Make it as short as possible, because the longer you blah, 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 they're going to lose interest probably anyway, because they're not engaged with what they're not doing something, right? They're engaged when they're doing something. So, get in there and get out as a game master. Give them the pertinent information, and then instead of telling them everything up front, let them discover stuff through play. So this player goes over here. Oh, you see this. This player goes here. Oh, you notice this. You know what I'm saying? Instead of telling them all up front, then you keep everybody engaged, because it may be someone, who even in turn it wasn't. It wasn't their turn, and you can say, oh, you notice this when this player goes over here. You see that come out or whatever. Yeah, you want to keep that in mind as far as pacing. I have the get in and get out philosophy as far as a GM DM.
Cool. I love the fact that you mirror so many things that we say as well. Scott and I have been, and Lou, we've all been gaming together for 30-something years. Scott's been gaming for 40. I've been gaming for 50 years. So it's nice to hear someone say the same thing that we've been out there saying, this is our mantras. And it's like, all right, it's not just us, guys. This is a real thing, okay?
And I think good DMs come to this. They come to these kind of realizations as you get experience with it.
That's just it. It's the experience as you go along.
Yeah.
You take the things that work, the things that haven't, your life experiences, you roll it all in one, and you do the best you can.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell us about your group.
Oh, yes.
Well, you mentioned your group, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of online groups lately, but my home groups, I have a couple home groups. I'm actually running Horde of the Dragon Queen, which is the TM. We're into the Tiamat part now. They're like level 17.
Oh, cool.
But the campaign only goes to level 17. It's like, well, what? It's like, why not go to all the 20? So I'm taking them basically to 20. So I've had to add a lot of my own content and change stuff and all that. I rarely run a module out of the module, except for my own quest giver modules. Because what can I change? They're perfect, right?
Of course. I would expect nothing less.
But I rarely run like a D&D module out of the book. Like, it's like 50 to 60% of it I'll use, because it's a good starting space. It's a good starting spot for stuff, and you can have a whole story and that kind of thing. But then you can add your own stuff to it, or the character stuff and all this. So yeah, but I'm running a Horde of the Dragon Queen. We're in the Rise of Tiamat now. It's 2 books. That one's been really fun because it was a bunch of people that really hadn't played D&D before. So we've been playing for a long time. With this. We play like once a month, so we're level 17. So we've been playing for a long time. I think it's been like 10 years now.
I was going to say, they can't say they're newbies anymore.
Right. But it's fun because, I've been able to do all these monsters and stuff that they don't know. If you play with like seasoned players, they're like, oh, that's a rust monster. Oh, that's a this and that. Or a purple worm, that's this. But they don't know any of the monsters. So it's been great. It's been great with them to run it, and fun to see, their characters evolve and them, learn tactics and, all the stuff that revolves around the game. And then I've been running a Curse of Strahd game, which is actually coming out with a new edition. But I've been running the Curse of Strahd game, and that's been really fun because I've really been doing the horror aspect of it, playing up the horror aspect. It's a smaller group. In my Tiamat group, I have like 6 players, and this one I have 4. So it's a more intimate group.
Nice.
It's just been fun, getting the creepy, in there for the characters. And then again, like I say, I don't run it straight out of the book. I always change and add stuff. But it's been fun. And then online, I've had several games. I've been running a post-apocalyptic game. I'm running the North Road for some people, which is my Quest Givers campaign book. So I'm running that for some people. And we're using the Cypher system on that, which I'm a huge fan of the Cypher system. so easy to GM. Yeah, so that's kind of what, and it's a huge variety of people. Oh, I'm sorry, I have another game online, another D&D game online that it's an interesting group though, because they're called the Doombringers, and they kind of like the theme of the campaign is they just cause trouble everywhere they go. You know, like things don't end up, you know, working out well for the group no matter where they go. Like, so I've kind of pushed that element of the campaign more than I would other D&D games. I do like to have that kind of ironic element in games, but in this game I pushed it. You know, I pushed it more to the fore because it's kind of a group of miscreants and, you know, haphazard characters. So
there you go,
it's
Lou. See if
it's
he's got room for one more.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Somebody was say nothing.
Lou's our giant ball of chaos.
I can be at times.
That's cool. That's cool. So that's the big difference between him and I. His wife games, and he has 5 groups, and my wife goes, "That's your thing," and I game once a week. So yeah. Once again, I'll finish where I started. I am envious.
But it has been a bummer not being able to run games because I've been running games at home, so I've been using it's all been online. Yeah, it's all been online.
That's how we started a podcast, because we couldn't game anymore.
Oh, right. There you go. Good idea.
And that's our episode with the Craft Father, DM Scotty. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find Scotty crafting on his YouTube channel, The DM's Craft, and on the web at thedmscraft.com. Check out Quest Givers at questgivers.com for adventures you can plug right into your own game and some really useful DMing advice. If you're a crafting DM or player, head over to the Tabletop Crafters Guild on Facebook. And thanks again, Scotty, for joining us.
See you next week in the dojo.
That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.